Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second session of our Mara Mastery series. Last time we already showed you the inbox and everything related to replying to your reviews. And in this week's session, Toby and I are gonna go through our analytics. So all the analytics screens, the reporting possibilities in Mara, describe everything in detail, talk about the different KPIs that we have in the tool and also our AI assistant feature in a bit more detail. So the goal is that after this session, you know everything you need to know about our analytics. As last week, this is going to be recorded, so we'll send out the recording to everyone afterwards and also upload it. If you have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to use the comment section on the right. We're trying to moderate that a bit during the webinar, but also if anything's unanswered in the end, we will try to answer our questions. And I'm now just gonna start right in and share my screen, and we will start with a little bit of settings again. So I want to show you what kind of settings are relevant when it comes to analytics, so that you're all set up to do all the analytics you need to do. And then we will go through the different analytics screens that you find here on the property and the group level, and talk a bit more about reporting in the end and the AI assistant. So when it comes to analytics, just real quick, in the first tab here, this is an admin setting, so not every user can see this, but in the property screen, you can see your properties, and if you click on a property, you can see the connected listings. And I'm showing that again because this is the base of everything you see in Mara. So this is where we get your reviews from, where the data comes from, and also this is the base for the analytics. So making sure that all relevant platforms are connected here and that all the relevant listings are here makes sense. So just double check maybe in your account if there's anything that needs to be removed or added when it comes to your OTA listings. But more importantly and more specific to analytics are the dimensions and the competitors. So I'm really quickly going to show you that. Most of our analytics per default are on the property level, so the response rate, the ratings, and so on. But you have the possibility, if you have multiple properties in your account and you're managing a larger set of hotels or properties, to create custom dimensions to aggregate data or filter data on different levels that are relevant for you. And you can do that here as an account admin only. You can create your own clusters, dimensions that can be regions, brands, whatever you need. Simply edit existing dimensions here. You can add a name and then the different levels within this cluster and assign your properties in this overview. And then you have the possibility to later on, and I'm going to show you that in the different screens, filter or aggregate data here. That can also be regions as here, or different brands. You can also add as many dimensions as you need simply by adding a name and the options here. And then secondly, you have the comp set that you can add to your account. So for each property, you can add up to 5 competitors. This can be done here. This can also be done by property admins or by account admins. Simply select the property in this drop-down menu here, and then you can create up to 5 competitors simply by clicking on create new competitor. There will be a little Google search where you can just search for your competitor name, and then we will look for the listings on the other platforms. And again, here you can also double check if all relevant listings that you want to have in here are connected afterwards. If any changes are necessary to your comp set, so if you want to remove a competitor, you need to contact our support, as you can currently not do that by yourself. And once those 2 things are set up, if needed, of course, then everything is actually ready and there's nothing else you need to do. So I'm going to jump right into the analytics screens. I'm going to skip the group overview for a second and start on the property level. For single properties, you have the property overview screen here, which is the basic overview of all your relevant KPIs, the response rate, the ratings, and so on. but I'm going to start explaining the different filters in the top a bit more in the beginning. So you can always select your property up here. You can also aggregate the data across all properties if you want, or you select the individual property. And then you always have the analytics and the comparison period, so the time frame that you want to analyze, and everything that you see below is then filtered for this time period. And the comparison period is what this change indicators here refer to. You can then always see how that changed, for example, in comparison to the previous month, the previous period, or the same period in the previous year. For example, if you want to compare June to June last year, you could also do that. Next, you have the level selection. This is exactly what the dimensions I just mentioned refer to. So per default, this is on the property level, but you could also look at that screen on a region level, and then you would select, instead of an individual property, you could select an individual region and have the data aggregated across, for example, all hotels in the US or all hotels in the DACH region, or for individual brands. Over here, you have some more filters. This is also good to know if you have post-day surveys, for example, that you set up in Mara, and the data is running in here as well. Per default, we include all data in all the analytics screens, so reviews and survey data. If you want to change that, you need to change this filter, and for example, only filter for review data to not include your post-day surveys in this screen. You can also filter for different platforms or ratings, of course, if you want to. And then lastly, you have this little share button here. This allows you to share a view. So if you filter for specific things, for example, every week or every month, to look at the data, and you want to share that internally or just send it to someone and not want to describe all the filters that you've set here, just copying this and sending it to someone else allows you to share exactly the view that you've set here. Then below that, you have the different KPIs. And you have the response rate, which I think is pretty self-explanatory, but again, as a reminder, the response rate is referring to the percentage of reviews that are answered in the given time frame. And this in Mara is only reviews where a publicly visible reply has been found in the daily inbox update. So as long as replies are pending in Booking, for example, they might have been sent via Mara and still pending in the extranet of Booking or Expedia, the response rate is not going to go up until this reply is publicly visible. And you can see which reviews are currently unanswered by clicking on this little button here. So in June, for example, for this property, 88% have been replied to. And if I want to know which reviews are still unanswered, I can click on this. I will be redirected to the inbox with the filters that I need already. So the status is not published. It's exactly the time frame that I had selected before and the property. And now I can see which reviews are still open, and I can answer them or just leave it as it is. But this is a simple way to find out what's still unanswered. And then next to that, we have the Mara score. So this is the average review rating in the selected time period on a 5-point scale. So all platform ratings that are on a 10-point scale, for example, Booking, Expedia, transform to a 5-point scale here. And this is simply the average for June across all reviews. And next to that, you have the number of reviews, which is clear. I think you can click on the different boxes here, and then below you see how the KPI has developed over time. And below that, you also have a split per platform. So you can look into that in more detail here as well. On the different platforms, the score, the response rate. And here you now also see the platform rating, which is the Mara score, but in the original scale of the platform. So this is, for example, the average rating across all reviews in June on Booking, on Google, Expedia, and so on. And then next to that, you also have the platform live score, which is the live rating on, for example, Booking in this case, in June, which is what guests see when they look for your property on the OTA. That might differ a little bit from the platform rating because it does not just refer to the reviews from June. Instead, for example, Booking includes older reviews in the property rating, just weighs them a bit differently. And this platform score is a bit more stable and doesn't change as fast as the platform rating might change. But this is a good indicator in which direction your current live rating is developing. But we have that here as well. And then below you see the comp set analysis. So here, once your comp set is set up, you can see your own property and then the competitors, and you see the response rate, the Mara score, and the number of reviews for your competitors as well. And you can compare your property to that. We do also have the possibility to analyze your competitors on like a deeper level. So the qualitative analysis of the comp set, which would be competitor insights. This is now available as well as an additional feature, so it's not included in your standard Mara plan. That would be visible in this screen then. It's looking pretty similar as the group overview screen, so I'm not going to dive into that right now. But in this screen, you can see your basic KPI overview for your comp set if needed. And then below you have another split of analysis. This is the room number analysis right here. This is only available if you have your PMS connected, which can also be done in the account settings under tech stack integrations. And if you have that set up, this allows us to get additional data for your reviews, such as the room number, the rate, the room type, and show you for example, the Mara score also per room number or per rate. You can select the metric that you want to look at right here. So you could also look for different rates and see how the score is changing between different rates. And that might be helpful, for example, to see which rooms are currently rated a lot lower than others. Maybe you want to assign those rooms at last and not give that room to someone as long as a different room is free. And as you can see here, next to all of those splits, you also have the AI summary button. As soon as there are 5 or more reviews for one of the categories, we do provide an AI summary, which basically means you can just click on that. You will be redirected to the Ask Reviews Anything screen, and Mara will just summarize you what your guests that stayed in this room said, and you don't need to like find out more complicated ways to get insights on why those reviews might be with a lower rating. So those little buttons you find at different places in the app, and that's just helpful summaries of the reviews related to this specific category then. So there's a lot of data that you can see in the property overview screen. It's very simple. KPIs. You have the possibility to also export some of that next to the tables. And then when it comes to understanding where ratings might come from, how your guests perceive your hotel, what they actually say, we have the review insights. So Mara does not only summarize your KPIs, but what we actually also do is we go through all the reviews and extract hotel-specific topics. And that's special because we do not just look for buzzwords and like cluster them under defined categories, but what we really do is we extract what your guests are really saying. So those hotel specific things, if your guests mention them, we will find them. And then afterwards we put those standardized categories such as housekeeping, rooms, F&B on top. And this you can find in the Review Insight screen. There are different views here. So next to the period filters, you have the topics only or the detailed analysis view. I'm going to start in the topics only view because that's the simple view that's very helpful a lot of times for properties, so for GMs, but also maybe housekeeping teams to get a quick overview of the topics that were mentioned in your reviews in maybe even a short time frame. So that can be helpful to look at on a weekly, on a monthly basis. to understand the reviews. And here you see just a list of positive and negative topics that were present in your reviews. It's always sorted by a number of mentions. Also here you can filter for the included data and so on, but you have an additional filter which is the categories. So if you just want to look at topics related to housekeeping, for instance, or to F&B, you can filter that here, and then you will just see the topics related to that in June for this case. And that might be super specific things. In this case, we can see there was poor air conditioning, but also absence of slippers in the room. So anything that your guest mentioned will pop up here. And you can also click on a topic to get an even deeper understanding of what was behind it. You will always see the number of reviews, the rating, when this topic occurred in your reviews. And then again, here you can also see the room level analysis. So in which rooms was this mentioned? That might be helpful also for maintenance related topics. And then below you even have the possibility to deep dive into the specific reviews that mentioned this topic. You can get a translation of each review here by toggling that on, of course. And important to know, I think, is that you can also reassign topics. So if you have the feeling that a topic is currently assigned to a category or a subcategory that doesn't really match your understanding of this topic, you can reassign that. So you can just change the category or the assigned subcategory in this dropdown, and then in the future, the topic will not be in this category anymore, but in the ones that you assign to it, actually. Yes, so this is the simple view. As said, that might be helpful to look at like more regularly. And then we have a more detailed view as well. This is, I think, the default when you enter the screen, but it will always save your view preferences that you've set in your browser last. But this view is more like on a higher level. So here you have the categories per default as the level of analysis, so housekeeping, front office, rooms, and so on and so forth. And here we look more on the impact. So this is an important KPI to understand as well, the impact score. And this is the effect a category or a topic has on your average rating. So the impact score reflects, for example, in this case for rooms, that 11 reviews on rooms in June had a rating that was minus, so 0.15 below your average rating across all reviews. So people who mentioned the rooms were actually more unsatisfied than people that did not mention the rooms and gave you a lower rating. And having the impact score here helps to see which categories are actually relevant for your rating. So which ones are decreasing your rating. And there might be people mentioning that maybe the cushion were a little too hard, but they all still give you 5 points or 5 stars. So it doesn't really impact the overall satisfaction of the guest when it comes to your rating. But people who are not happy with the housekeeping or the rooms, they actually gave you lower ratings, and that has a significant effect on your ratings. And it makes sense to look at those topics first and change things here maybe. And in this screen, you get a lot of like data on that, and you can really like dive deep into the data. You have a summary here on top. This is an AI provided summary. So you get a summary of everything that's below the general health. So how the number of review and the rating and everything developed. But you can also look at quick wins and strategic actions here. So the AI also tells you based on the impact score which areas might be relevant to look at when it comes to quick wins, but what are more topics that might be strategic actions. And here you get a good summary of that already without having to look into all the data. But if you want, you can go down here. You have the overview, but you can even dive deeper. For example, we suggest a lot of time is sorting this by the impact score. So to see the categories and topics that actually have the biggest impact on your rating. And then you can drill down here. Those are the predefined subcategories. So those are defined by us. And then below you find the hotel specific topics. So this is a specific topic detected in your reviews. that we've sorted under this category. And you can see exactly how many positive and negative mentions you had there, what the impact is, and so on and so forth. Another KPI that you find in this table is the positivity score. Just to also mention that this is just the share of positive reviews. So 0% means all reviews that mentioned temperature and ventilation were negative. 100% means all reviews that mentioned this category or this topic were positive. And here again, you have the AI summary button. So if we click on that for rooms, for example, then we will be redirected to, as I said, the Ask Reviews Anything screen, and we just get a summary of the reviews that mentioned rooms, and the AI tells us what the guests mainly mentioned with regards to the rooms. And this can be super helpful if you have specific questions, just want to understand the data a bit more. You can also start a new thread in the Ask Reviews Anything screen, so you can also chat with your reviews here and just ask basic questions that are of interest. So what do you guests say about the breakfast? What do they complain about? If you don't want to dive through all the data that you have in the analytics screens here, that can be an easy way to get answers from your reviews without having to look for specific topics or reviews here. Those chat questions can be anything related to your reviews. If you have more like complex KPI analytic related questions, if you want to compare properties, if you want the AI to make suggestions or anything, then at some point the research assistant needs to take over, because this chat can only answer a certain set of questions. But this is a good way to start and like chat with your reviews if you have specific things that you're currently analyzing in your properties. And as that, you find those little AI buttons in the screens at the right place already. Yes, so those two views are actually, I think, the most important thing when it comes to getting insights from within the analytics screens. This view is a bit more complex, more data-driven. This might be something to look at maybe every quarter, every 2 to 3 months to understand which areas impact your rating most. And then the topics-only view is very concrete. It helps understanding the reviews, can also help on a weekly basis in a team meeting to understand what your guests say. You do also get an email every Monday summarizing exactly those topics. So you get an overview of your response rate in the email, of your rating, but also of the top mentioned topics from the previous week. And then the first Monday every month also from the previous month. But this is just a little summary of everything that you can find in here. And then when it comes to accounts where you have more than one property, you can also take a look at the group overview screen. This is just the same that you see in the other screens basically, but on the group level. So again, here you have an overview of all properties in the account or of all properties that you're assigned to. You can see the response rate, the rating, the number of reviews in the given period. And here it might be interesting to also look at the dimensions again that I mentioned in the beginning. The default level is the property, but if you have a lot of properties and you want to compare regions or brands, for example, you can change the level, and then you will see that the overview is changed to that aggregation level. So now all the data in here is aggregated across those levels. So this is the response rate for the DACH region, the response rate for Spain, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, if you want to just look at one region, for example, or just look at the properties within one brand, you can do that in the filters. So there you can then see the different dimensions that you created, and you can just say, I just want to see the data for the DACH region, and then you will only see the properties that are assigned to this region and can compare them to just minimize the number of properties in here. And then below you also have the insights, on the group level. So you see the different categories and their impact on the Mara score. This is aggregated across the whole group, or like one brand or whatever you set as a filter across, but this is across all properties selected above, to see which areas have the biggest impact on your rating. And then below you get a category analysis. So this is just one view basically to see where areas are that certain properties might perform low, where improvements might be needed. And to explain that a bit more, you have the different categories up here. They are always sorted by number of mentions. So in June, for example, rooms was mentioned most. You can also hover here to see the total number of mentions. This is 351 reviews where rooms were mentioned, and you have the positivity score here now. So the metric is chosen here. You can also see this table with the Mara score in it or with the impact score in each category. But in this case, it's the positivity score. So overall, across all properties in the account, 190 reviews were positive that mentioned the rooms, and 161 were negative, which is then a positivity score of 54%. You can sort this table as well to see maybe the lowest performing properties, and then you can hover with your mouse across these numbers, and then you see also a short preview of the hotel-specific topics that were mentioned in this category, and you can click on that and will be redirected to the review insights to get a deeper understanding if needed. But this table can help to get like a first understanding in which areas problems might be and where certain properties might perform lower than others. And for example, for housekeeping, that can help to see that one property is performing super well. Maybe it makes sense to see what is different here compared to other properties. Yes, so in these screens, we try to keep it as simple as possible, even though there is a lot of data in there already. But still, we try to not overwhelm the user with a ton of different filters and data. There is the possibility still to export data. So if you want to do your own analytics and other tools, if you want to do that in Excel, you have the possibility to get some exports. There are a couple of buttons in the screens as well to export certain views, but you also have a report screen down here where you can download, for example, an account or property report with the data that is on those screens and some additional data, some additional splits, for example, the response rate per platform, stuff like that. For all your properties, you can just generate the reports here and you will get an Excel, or you can download all your reviews in any time frame together with your replies if that's something you need and if you want to use that in Excel yourself. And if you use, for example, any internal dashboards or BI tools and you want to pull the data from Mara and just do your own analytics there, do your own dashboards or graphs, you can do that as well. We do have an open API that you can access and pull all the data from there. We do have a separate session, I think in 2 weeks, on the API and the connectivity. But just so that you've heard, in the account settings, there is this API key tab. Here you have access to the API documentation where you can see all the endpoints and you can create an API key and just start using it basically. But everything that is in Mara could also be pulled from our API and used internally for your own analytics. But we, of course, also want to make it simple for you to get the reports and the insights that you need from within Mara without having to look through all the data yourself. And this is why we try to create an AI layer. You have those buttons in certain places already. You have the chat here to ask your reviews about topics that you're currently analyzing. And we now also have the AI research assistant, which basically is the possibility for you to create custom reports that the assistant is then running for you, and you don't need to do all the data collection and looking for the insights in the tool yourself. And this is what Toby will explain you in a second. If there is no question that is unanswered on everything I mentioned before, because I know that was already a lot of information. So Toby, let me know if I forgot anything or if there's any unanswered questions.
No, I think very clear for me at least, and I don't see any question. If there is any question, feel free to use the comments section and just ask everything that's on your mind, no matter how specific it might be. But I'll just take over and directly get started with the research assistant. As Paula very well introduced, the idea of the research assistant is helping you, giving you an assistant at hand that knows Mara in and out, and that can perform any kind of analysis for you or for your team, and inform you with the findings, ideally even without access to Mara for certain staff members. You can access the research assistant down here. This is like the purple AI button here. If you haven't checked it out, please do. It will be a paid feature from August onwards, but right now we're in a free beta trial, so everyone still has unlimited free usage of the AI research assistant. So I'd highly encourage you all to give it a try, test it out, and see if it can benefit you, if it can save you plenty of time, and of course always share feedback with us. I'll quickly guide you through. So overall, what this research assistant can do is you can give the research assistant any kind of task, and it will answer this task and send you a web-based report and also a PDF report to your inbox. You can schedule it, for example, to execute every first of the month at 8 a.m. and then send you the results afterwards. The easiest thing to start is, what we'll show you later, is you can basically hand over any kind of task to the research assistant. But the simplest thing to get started with is our hand selected templates that Paula, me, and the rest of the Mara team created for you. So basically ready to start templates you can use in just a few clicks. And I'll just show you a few of them so that you get an idea of what they do and what results can look like. And afterwards we'll create one task from scratch. So each of this template has a name, a description, but if you're still unsure what this kind of what this report is about, you can check out the PDF preview. This is just an anonymized version of one report that we generated, and the what to fix report is the most used template right now, which is why I thought we'll check this one out. It has an executive summary. It highlights 3 quick wins, 3 strategic actions, and then it gives you a very detailed fix list. So basically it analyzes all your Mara data, all your reviews, and identifies issue clusters or issues in your reviews that guests mention negatively, and summarizes them in this fixed list. So for this property, the water temperature seems to be the #1 complaint that was flagged by the research assistant. It shows the impact score, the number of reviews in this case, a description, what guests said. In this case, it also gave one quote from a review, a proposed fix, and overall identified 7 complaints that guests frequently mention that are worth taking a look at. There are plenty of, and you see that this one has been used 160 and 96 times already. You see also that there are some templates on a property level, which means this is a report meant to analyze data for one specific property, but there are also templates on an account level, and we can have a look at this. This is like a monthly executive report that can inform leadership and can just be scheduled and shared with the leadership team once per month, for example. It highlights the the key KPIs Paula talked about, so the MARA development compared to the period or the months before, the response rate and the review volume, and then does a deep dive on each of those KPIs and provides a property level overview table. So it shows all of the properties, all of the hotels in the account with the score in this month and the previous month and the change, and also gives for leadership like a first indication what the main driver was. In this case, satisfaction with with housekeeping declined, for example, which seems to be the main driver of this change, and so on and so forth. It does the same for the response rate and the review volume. Another template I'd like to show you is the monthly F&B report, because this is quite powerful. Right now, we often hear from our customers that just a set of users of team members should have access to Mara or reputation management tool because it's quite complex. Other parts of the team do not want to have access to yet another tool, and we totally understand that. But on the other side, there's so much valuable feedback in guest reviews that is relevant for maintenance, for F&B, that they should be equipped to learn from this feedback as well. And one template that we created is the monthly F&B report, and this basically summarizes all of the data within Mara for a property that is relevant for F&B. So the main KPI is then not the overall review score, but the positivity score related to F&B. So the satisfaction regarding F&B, and this increased, for example, in for this property in the last month. Then there is a what to fix list, similar to the one we saw in the what to fix report, but only focused on F&B complaints. And also in this report, a summary of what guests love. What are really strengths that guests frequently mention in F&B. Just configuring that and sending that automatically out to your F&B manager or the whole F&B team helps them learn from the feedback and improve guest satisfaction month over month. Let's now quickly activate a template. So the only thing you need to do is clicking on the Use This Template button. Then you select the property you want to activate this template for, press Continue, and then you can schedule on which schedule this task should be executed. You can either change daily, weekly, probably the most frequent ones that you'll use is monthly or on demand. Monthly means you can select the day of the month and the time it should execute, or on demand, if you're not really sure, if you just want to test, you can select on demand, which means it will just be executed when you hit a certain Run Now button that I'll show you later. And in addition, you can then select the people who should receive this report automatically. I'll now choose me, and you get a proposal of all the users in your account. But you can also type in any kind of email outside of Mara. So if your F&B manager, for example, doesn't have a Mara login yet, you can still add that person's email here. It will then show a quick note. This is a user outside of your account, and you need to approve that with a check mark click. But then this person also receives this report automatically. I'll not finish. I'll not set it up now because it will take a couple of minutes until it runs. But we can have a look at a report or a task here. So in the task overview, you see all the tasks that have been configured in your account. And here's a small edit button that will navigate you to the details. There's some general information like the task name, the description, also the Run Now button if you want to execute it right away. Then you see the historical execution. So when was this task executed? Was it a manual trigger? So did someone click Run Now, or was it automatically triggered on schedule? And you can look into the executions and see the web-based report version or download the PDF version for each of these runs. Underlying when you use a template, or if you create a task itself, is a task description that basically informs, basically like the master prompt you create that is configured by the template, or that is also created for you when you create a task from scratch. And you can always edit it here and refine it. It basically gives the assistants a little guidance in what to do, what you'd like to accomplish, and how the final report should look like. So if you have very specific ideas how the report should look like specific sections, for example, or types of how it should be visualized, like a graph, for example, you can specify that here in the analytics instructions or the presentation guide. You can either refine it manually, or if you have executed a task once, had a look at the results, and then say you just want to change a little bit, maybe get rid of the executive summary, you can also just chat with the AI agent and let it know what you'd like to change. For example, remove the executive summary from the reports or anything like that, and then it will adjust the task description here for you. And in addition, you can obviously also always change the recipients and the schedule this task should run. As a last thing, I'd like to show you how you can also create new tasks from scratch. So basically, it's like a chat with your assistant, and you just ask the assistant or prompt it what you would like to do. I just prepared something so you can, for example, ask, show me the booking.com score development for every property over the past 12 months. And then it will either ask you follow-up questions. In this case, it does. So it asks me, do you want this to show Mara score for booking.com reviews over the last 12 months, or booking.com's native rating trend for each property? I want to have the real booking score. So the booking score on a 10-point scale. So I'll just reply with booking.com native score. And now it creates already a lot of details. And so it creates this task description we saw earlier. Please always check those, see if you want to change something or add any details that haven't been captured yet. But for me, this looks fine. So I'll just click continue. Now I'll also leave it on demand for now and don't choose any recipients. And then I'm ready to go. In the next step, I can just execute it. I'll not do it now because it will take probably 10 to 20 minutes, but I've done the same just this morning, and we can have a look at the results. So here, exactly the same has been prompted, and a report has been generated. This report for booking.com score developments shows an executive summary. Then it shows overall changes in my account. So like comparing 12 months ago score and the current score with the overall change. Some of the properties significantly improved, some declined in this demo account. And then it also showed me a plot or a graph with the development for each of the properties. I would probably prefer to have it have single charts for each property, but I didn't specify it yet, right? So if I want to change it, I would go back to the task description and tell the assistant, hey, please change the layout and create one graph per property instead of one graph with all properties. And then in the next run, it would change that and include one graph per property. And then it did add some additional details, like a month over month, so basically the raw data per property and month. And if I don't want to have that, I can always go back, go to the task description and change it either manually or change it here. And I hope this showed you how powerful this tool can be, because you can basically create any kind of reports you or anyone of your team wants. I think the strongest use case is regular reports for leadership, for property admins or GMs, but also for specific team members, like the F&B report, for example, or similar report for housekeeping. You can also let it list all of the reviews from last week that contain any kind of feedback related to housekeeping, for example, and send it out automatically at the end of each week to your housekeeping team or housekeeping firm you're working with. Yeah, that is everything that is available already. We're developing and improving the research assistant week by week. It still has this beta tag, but the assistant has already access to all your data, but more improvements are on the way already. So if you have any kind of feedback, any wish list, or experience any kind of problems, please always let us know. And with that, I'm handing over back to Paula. I think we're good in time. Is there any question that hasn't been answered yet?
There were a few questions in the chat, partially answered. One was on the output format of the assistant, or the question if it's possible to get an Excel report per property with like specific data in there. So as you said, currently it's only a PDF export, maybe, as far as I know. At some point there might be an Excel output, but currently it's only a PDF, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we hear that feedback, or heard that feedback already a few times. It's not yet in development, but I think there are chances that an Excel export report, might come in one of the improvements over the next couple of months. So there is, but there's not yet the option to get Excel reports yet.
And then there was the second part of the question, maybe more specific, but the live score on Booking and Expedia and so on, which we have in the property overview, if it's possible to have the number of reviews that it's based on. So I think we do actually not know, because that's dependent on how the platforms calculate the score, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think we do. Let me quickly check one thing. I think we do have the number of reviews. Yeah, we do have. We do have the number of reviews that is displayed on the OTA listings or the review listings. So we do have the information that is visible in, for example, your Booking.com profile. So on your Booking.com profile, it says average, or like Booking.com score 8.0 based on 1,213 reviews. Then those two numbers are within our database. The later number, the number of reviews, is not in the dashboard anywhere. I have to check. Maybe it's something the research assistant can pull already, but I would have to check that out. But it's worth to give it a try.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure if that was exactly what the question referred to, but if it was, or if that's still unclear, just feel free to shoot us an email afterwards as well to explain in more detail what you mean, because then we can have a look at it. But I think those were at least all questions in the chat. Feel feel free if you have anything else to write us now. Otherwise,
there will be 2 more sessions, right? Next week and the week after.
So it makes sense to sign up. As I said, it will be recorded. So even if you cannot participate live, we will send you the recording afterwards. We will also upload all recordings to our YouTube channel, so they are accessible anytime. But of course, in the live session, you have the possibility to ask your questions. Next week's session will be on widgets and surveys. And then we have another session planned on the API and integrations. And if you're interested in any other sessions, of course, let us know. Happy to do more of those learning sessions as well. All right. And if there are no more questions, thanks a lot for joining, and have a good rest of the day.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.